So in the course of the last 14 years, True Grass Farms has evolved in understanding like how to raise really good beef. And yeah, these are our grassland managers. Not only are we selling meat, but our main goal is ecological restoration through grazing and how we could actually feed a community, feed ourselves in a manner that would be restorative and integral to like the health of the whole. Silvopasture was interesting to us because we were looking at long, dry summers in California, and trees have wonderful protein. So the goal is that the next generation could benefit from not having to feed hay, so eliminating fuel costs and looking at protein production in summer. The other one is carbon storage. But at the end of the day, if it all failed in the next 10 years, just the T-posts and the fencing materials around the trees in those fields attracted birds. So the first thing we saw was just, bird manure around the trees. And so that's the natural fertilizer. My idea of silvopasture is the intersection of the sylvan element, the trees, and the pasture. And so how do we integrate a savanna type environment that produces food and at the same time creates habitat and a beautiful landscape to look at? We have partnered with Point Blue Conservation Science with their rangeland monitoring program. And it's been really beneficial because we do believe in monitoring. And as producers, we have to be actively managing and making decisions daily. And science is way too slow to respond to give us insight. But what we can do is help each other gain enough information to then help inform future decisions.
I'm excited about operations like this, about True Grass and about silvopasture in general, because as a soil scientist, there's a big opportunity to help steward them and rebuild soil health. And silvopasture is one of the practices that we can put back on the landscape to help us do that.
This is one of the worst fields. It's the flattest field, and it's what was farmed constantly over the last 30 years for hay. Seeing some diversity come into these fields that look like this is positive. So what are really low-cost solutions? And one is time and patience, and then experimenting and managing animals and adding nutrients, and that is a very slow process. So there's ways in which I think you can design the systems to fit within the current model of your business. For us, it hasn't hindered our process. I think taking your time understanding what species can do well in the soil type you have, what kind of predators and pests are there before you plant, what could deter them, do you have enough water? What is your worst year and how much water do you have during that year that you could spare? And so the idea of what materials do you have in the area, what trees do well, and just add all these elements together.
The diversity in ways in which silvopasture can go in on the ground, I think, can fit the diversity of landscapes and needs and goals of operations. And so really it can be a flexible practice and is one that has a strong role to play in many landscapes in California.
This is one of the silvopastures, the initial 2-acre one, and then almost like checkboard north of us, there's the second 2-acre planting, and it's a little more diverse. There's some chestnuts in there as well, different types of oak. There's some black oak. Like I said, it's slow. It's a mosaic, coming together, and it started all with planting a few trees, and then others, 4,000. That's why I'm start somewhere, because otherwise you'll always talk yourself out of it. It's very easy. It's the easiest thing you can do. You'll make an excuse and you'll make a reason. So might as well try it. But there's a lot of moments where you're like, I don't know what I'm doing, and this is a lot more work than I thought. But then there's those moments where you find the hummingbird nest, and it marvels you for hours on end. Or you see a cow come up and finally eating the oaks, and they're just nibbling just enough to prune them. And it looks like God touching Adam, like in the Michelangelo painting in the Sistine Chapel. And it's just these moments, it's enriching a process. And I think that's what trees are so good at. So the idea of reintroducing certain trees, shrubs, native seeds that then can be redistributed with the local population of wildlife is part of the goal. The more biodiversity you have, the more biofeedback you're getting from your environment, and you have just more information as a manager to actually make decisions on a timely manner. I think that's one of the key goals to practice any of these type of plantings and converting a lot of our grasslands to a savanna type silvopasture.